there's another force applied in combat that we generally don't think of as a weapon of war. That weapon is words. Words are weapons.
Telling the truth is the only way in which to influence people.
This is psychological warfare.
It's not a commercial. That's actually an ad that the U.S. Army Psychological Operations actually put out. I actually saw it reposted by like RT. Ended up putting that information out as well. It's freaking shocking to me that it ended up coming out. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome over to a special Saturday evening episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. Terrorists ended up getting arrested over inside of Dallas, Texas area for planning out an IED attack over inside of Fort Worth. We're going to talk about that. He comes from, guess where? Afghanistan. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Afghanistan. We've got Trump closing down the airspace over Venezuela. Ukraine ended up knocking out some Russian freaking spy vessels yesterday, like huge ones. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit as well. And New York's got huge riots going on. The whole world's just going to hell all over the weekend. And I want to thank Mizzen in Maine for sponsoring today's episode. For those of you guys that are unaware of who Mizzen in Maine is, I want you guys to check out the shirt that I've actually got on right now. This comes from them. I like this shirt. It's freaking nice. They're actually making like designer men's dress clothes that you really don't have to take care of. Like, I don't know how else to say that. And for men, that's something that's kind of huge for us, right? Because we're lazy. We suck at doing laundry. And ladies, if you're looking for like a perfect gift or something like that to get your husband for, I don't know how to say this, for Christmas, birthday, any holiday coming up, whatever. Right now, you've actually got the Black Friday sale going on. And then you also have a Cyber Monday store sale going on for 25% off the different orders. I love this freaking company because they are very proud to give back to their veteran community. They are a veteran-led organization committing to supporting those who serve. They offer year-round military discount and proudly give back to veterans organizations. All right. The other nice thing about this is their fabric is like it is just like really nice. It's stretchy. It's lightweight. It's moisture-wicking, wrinkle-resistant, completely machine washable, and no ironing or dry cleaning. Like, I thought it was a joke when they said that, but it's absolutely true. And it is. It's like super, it's really comfortable. Like, I like these shirts, like business casual stuff like that, or like a go to church on Sunday like shirt, all of that crap, especially if you live in the South. This would be really, really nice. Pants, shirts, all that crap available up over on their website. And it's nice. Like, you guys, I can't tell you enough. Like, you can literally take it, whip it out of the package, and it's good, and it's set, and it's ready to go. So come on, ladies and gentlemen, get on over there, head over to Ms. and Maine, get your guys yourself something nice, or get your husband, your boyfriend, or yourself. I don't know. Just go get yourself something nice, because it is nice. They are offering our listeners 20% off your first purchase at mizzenandmaine.com using promo code ROB20. That's spelled Mizzen, MIZZEN, and Maine, MAIN.com, promo code ROB20 for 20% off. That's mizzenandmaine.com, promo code ROB20. And if you'd rather shop in person, you can find Mizzen and Maine stores in selected states. And like I said, Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals. Like, if you're shopping during Black Friday or Cyber Monday, you can score 25% off. You don't even need a code. It's their biggest sale of the year, running from November 21st through December 1st. So, ladies and gentlemen, get on over there, check them out. Love their stuff. And I hope you guys are ready for a hell of a good episode. And I want to thank Ms. Maine for sponsoring tonight's episode. Fox McCloud says, you look like you're about to scam somebody's grandma out of her will. Psh, nah, bro, not even freaking close. That ain't going to happen. Incock Faraday came in and giving out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Greatly appreciate that. I don't scan Grammys. It's not what I do. It's not really my thing. Scenes over in New York today, you know, as I like start talking about it, like what was going on up there is freaking nuts. They ended up, there was a massive pro-Pally rally all around the world. It was like a global pro-Pally rally. New York had major demonstration that was taking place, but that's not what this is. They were over outside the federal building where ICE is operating out of, and they were blocking off the parking garage. And I've got more on that coming up in a little bit. This madness was going on. They literally are taking dump trucks full of trash and dumping it in front, locking the ICE officers in there. But this is going on as we actually do now have, like, you know, officials, like U.S. congressional officials, that are coming out stating that the strikes on the Venezuelan cartels that are coming out are illegal. One in particular where they ended up double tapping a boat that they had already struck, and they're losing it over it, and they're calling it illegal. And they're just going off on it. Hexath ordered on first Caribbean boat strike, officials say, kill them all. I think for some reason that's an illegal order for the Department of Defense to kill everybody that we are targeting, right? That are on these vessels, like designated military targets, right? It's pretty stupid that people are actually coming out with this. You actually had, I think it was like the former commander of Southcom ended up coming out and speaking about this, saying he feels like it ends up violating like, all sorts of like international laws and stuff. And it's just simply not true. If you were to look at the purpose of being able to knock those things out, yeah, you can go back and you could take care of them on land, right? And it certainly looks like we're about to do that because Trump did announce that we're going to be shutting down their airspace. But when you end up going after them on their boats and you take those vessels out, it forces them back over to land. It forces them to start doing a bunch of different things. And so it allows like basically more people to end up sticking their heads up to be targeted a heck of a lot better. They're going to have to replace the vessels, find new routes, find new shipping lanes. And it ends up like sparking off their entire support infrastructure for them to come out. And it allows our intelligence assets to kind of like go after them and makes that a heck of a lot easier. Donald Trump said to all airline pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers, please consider the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald Trump. Let's see here. Brick says, Ryan Macbeth did a great video on this. It seems this all traces back to the Washington Post and nobody actually has evidence one way or another. That's correct. And they're also like, when they're reaching out to the Department of Defense on this, whether or not that's a true statement, they've got nothing. It's just all anonymous sources and crap like that. Nor is it illegal, right? What you have is you have people that are legitimately trying to influence and undermine the government here in the United States of America and our military, right? And our military. And you look at the timing that video came out, for the Sedacious 6 video when that came out, and now we're closing the airspace off over Venezuela. And I'm pretty sure we're going to start bombing some of their production facilities and things like that. It wouldn't surprise me if a U.S. bomb made its way over that might help an opposition force that's on the ground, at the same time that's going to go overthrow Maduro. I think that's going to happen. Do I think we're going to have Marines landing on the coast of Venezuela? No. But Venezuela is preparing as we speak, going over all sorts of their different options. Bruno Rodriguez, who is the chancellor over in Colombia, has actually came out and he stated that there is persistent electromagnetic interference in the Caribbean, particularly over the airspace of Venezuela, caused by the offensive and extraordinary U.S. military deployment in the region. So here you have foreign government officials that are actually coming out stating that we are causing problems over Venezuela. No, we're warning, we're shutting down airspace, we're doing all of those things. And for stay tuned. Are bombs going to be dropped? Maybe. I think it's a potential for bombs to get dropped over there sometime in the very near future. But it is possible. Now, a lot of people are questioning, why are we dealing with this? Because again, out of the top 5 countries that send drugs into the United States, Venezuela is at like the bottom of the list. Like India is higher on the list than freaking Venezuela, right? And so you got to ask yourself, why is that? Over 80% of the drugs are coming out of Mexico. Why are we dealing with these cartels? Why are we dealing with all this stuff? And the real answer is there's been crap going on in and around the United States, in and around the UK. Talked about spy vessels over outside of UK with Russia, right? The other day, and how the UK government was actually tracking them and threatening them if they were going to be coming into the waters, they were going to go aboard and like arrest people. Russia's been doing this crap for a very long time. We've also have issues over here on our soil as well. But the other big thing is that you have Russia and China that are encroaching over, and not encroaching, like straight up like in Venezuela, right? We have a huge pipeline from Venezuela going into the United States for Chinese immigrants. I've talked about this before, like illegal aliens. I mean, I remember watching like an entire hotel that's like set up and catered directly for Chinese nationals to go into Venezuela for a pipeline to get up into America. Like it's that bad. Whenever you have drugs, and I've told you guys this before, if you have drugs moving in one direction, you have bodies moving in the same direction, right? So if they have lines of effort or lines of communication set up to move drugs, they certainly have it for people in human trafficking. And we have seen an increase here in the United States of Chinese nationals coming across the border illegally in the last decade. Let's just be honest about it, right? And it's a problem. We've caught them in Silicon Valley stealing stuff and everything else. Not to mention, Russia, I really do think is looking at kind of hopefully taking over some sort of geopolitical superpower in the world, trying to replace the United States. I think China is going to end up doing that. But China is having its own problems, over in over in their neck of the woods. They had a bunch of their boats get blown up off the coast of another sovereign nation for spying on them. There were smaller fishing boats and stuff that took place the other day. It was, so tiny I didn't even bother reporting on it. But the U.S. is actually developing. I want to say it's the F-47, brand new aircraft specifically to combat against China and China's fighter aircraft. But I want to show you guys this, because this took place, and let me show you where this actually happened at first. This is where Ukraine ended up blowing up these Russian boats, and I'll tie this in a sec. So bear with me, ladies and gentlemen, because you do need to know this, because Russia has been doing dirty things all around the world for a really long time, and for some reason we pretend like they don't, or we pretend like they're, I don't even know how to say it. Like they're innocent and that we should just treat them nice. So here we go. You got Ukraine all the way up here, Russia obviously over here. And then I want you guys to focus in on Turkey. And if we go down to Turkey, you guys can see that there is a chunk of land right here. All right. This chunk of land that kind of stretches up over by Bulgaria that belongs to Turkey. If you go and you zoom in, you're going to see a strait that passes right through there, over into the Black Sea. And reportedly, this strike ended up taking place right over here, through that choke point. They are the Shadow Fleet tankers. Thank you very much, Texas Actual. And I've been telling you guys this, if you guys have been around on this channel for a while, if you're a long true supporter, I've been telling you guys that Russia is an issue for the United States of America. There is a reason the U.S. is still backing Ukraine. There's a reason Trump isn't 1,000% forcing Zelensky to go into all of these different agreements, right? Like even those talking points or the peace deal points ended up getting chopped down by like 11 or 12 or something like that the other day. And nobody's going to agree to half that crap. We can't make Ukraine give up its own sovereign territory. It's just not going to happen, despite what people like to think. So, for you guys, these are the Russian spy vessels. I want you to take a look at this. And I showed you on the map where this ended up going down at. Again, like very southern Black Sea, right outside of Turkey, which is a NATO country, by the way. So Turkey is, and I want you guys to remember this, Turkey is allowing these Russian vessels to pass through that space right there. Right? These are Russian spy vessels confirmed by all sorts of different Western countries. This isn't just like Ukrainian intelligence is saying this, but like everybody knows this. Like this isn't something that nobody knows. So Ukraine went and took them out with a drone, and they're hiding. They're oil tankers, right? They're oil tankers. I got to turn that music off. I can't do it. These are oil tankers, and they ended up going at them with these little, I forget the technical term for them, but the sea drones with explosives on them, and ended up blowing freaking holes in the ship. Ships ended up catching fire, were burning for a long time, and ended up sinking down. Incog Faraday says, thanks for the update on the holiday weekend. Dude, I have to. I mean, there's so much stuff that's going on right now. It would be irresponsible for me not to bring up half of this crap, especially because, on Tuesday, Texas ended up arresting an Afghan for an IED plot here in the United States of America. And I'm going to talk to you guys here in a little bit about a color revolution. I'm actually going to let two other people, retired General Flynn being one of them, talk to you guys about a color revolution that's taking place here in the United States. It's something that I'm aware of, that multiple people are aware of, where we literally have Russia trying to influence our country. And this is something that, our own government has talked about. We have different government agencies that have talked about this, them 100% trying to interfere in our elections, but also interjecting in our politics, interjecting on the streets in America, interjecting in all sorts of different ways. Over here in the States, we've got Iran with failed terror plots, and attacks. So all sorts of problems in Russia and Iran. You guys might be asking, why is Matt talking about Iran? Well, because Russia and Iran are connected. They are very good friends. They're tight. So all of these people are huge problems for us. Thumper 33 coming in, gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. So that's important for you guys to understand that those two vessels just got taken out the other day, and it happened right off the coast, of Turkey, right on the other side of that strait. And just, what was it, a couple weeks ago, maybe, we were talking about the UK having issues with these vessels right off their coast. So this is an issue for them. Thumper 33, appreciate you gifting out those memberships, man. Everybody that donates, I don't care if it's $1, I don't care if it's $5, I don't care if it's 100. I mean, obviously I care more if it's 100, but 1, 5, 10, or Speak the Truth memberships, you guys, you literally are supporting this channel, and I greatly appreciate you guys. You allow me to do what I do. And I also ask that you guys like, share, comment, do all of those things to help boost us up in the algorithm, because we have been kind of like smashed down lately due to some other crap. All right, so let's get in and talk about it. Texas terror plot. Let's get this up on your screen.
It's just in. We have a Fox News alert from Brooke Taylor. You won't believe this. DHS is confirming that an Afghan national was arrested Tuesday after posting a video of himself on TikTok indicating he was building a bomb with an intended target of the Fort Worth area. Mohammed Dawood Al-Okazai is charged at the state level with making a terroristic threat. According to DHS, listen to this. He came to the United States as part of Operation Allies Welcome. So here you have it. This happened Tuesday. Texas Department of Public Safety. This is a second Afghan national, second one this week. Operation Allies Welcome. He had a terror plot. We know it comes the same week that deranged individual, that alleged assassin, took out 2 of our heroic National Guard, came here on the same program, Operation Allies Welcome, a program that we were assured time and time again by Mayorkas, by Jen Psaki, by Joe Biden himself was safe and secure. But here we have a second data point in 1 week that it was not safe, it was not secure. And we've got to look very hard at this program as President.
Yeah, she's not lying. We do have to take a good hard look at the people that are coming through. Now, how were they able to get tipped off this? How did they know it was coming? Believe it or not, this guy might actually be a lone wolf actor. If we're going to be honest about him, he got caught because he was on TikTok screaming about needing help and wanting to blow everybody up. I've got a recording of the video here. It was posted online just a couple hours ago, and I want you guys to listen. This is a TikTok space, like a TikTok live session. All right. And you could, they're speaking in local Afghan language. All right. And you can see right down the bottom, how do you commit suicide? Right. They're about to go into it. That's the suspect in the top right corner that got arrested. And I want you guys to listen to the words that are coming out of his mouth. All right.
کو که تو انتحاری چرا کم انتحاری میکنی؟
تکرار سریتانا می تکرار انتحاری میکنم سری هر کس افغان چی مشکل داشته باشه سری او انتحاری میکنم هیچ مشکل نیست.
در کجا هستی آدرس در کجا هستی؟ آدرس یک دقیقه بدارم مایک سبیلی تو بسته که برادر آدرس در کجا هست گفتی؟
دالاس پورت ورت.
انتحاری رو در کجا جور میکنی بامبا؟
انتحاری همینجا جور میکنم.
باز کافر هم انتحار میکنی و
سریتانم میکنم سری کافرتانم میکنم کسی که افغان مخالف باشه سری او انتحاری میکنم.
ایره چرا کم انتحار میکنی؟
میکنم.
هستی گفتی درسته؟
Notice how he didn't just say Afghans. He literally said the Taliban. I want you guys to notice that in that video. At least that's what the translation is. I don't speak Pashto or Dari, but the translation in that video literally says Taliban. Not just Afghans, opposes Taliban.
بام گفتی در داخل موتر جور میکنی.
همین نشان نباشه.
صبر یک دقیقه بیادر. گفتی که انتحاری رو هم در موتر جور میکنی یاد خواهر.
بله جور میکنم آقا.
در کجا جور میکنی؟
در موتر جور میکنم اینه.
بامش از کجا میخری؟
دوران جمهوریت چقدر زمان کشتی؟
یک کس که
جوان در تکساس کالا هستی اینجا خواهنداری خود را نمیکنی یا
میکنم اگه دلم شما میکنم
آقا در کی انتحاری میکنی؟
در تکساس میگنداری
سری تو انتحاری میکنم سری کاپیرام انتحاری میکنم سری هر کس انتحاری میکنم.
Now, I also want to point out that the man talking to him appears to be a local speaker as well. And he states that it sounds like from the conversation that he's also stating that he's in Dallas, like the Dallas area, or I'm sorry, in Texas. And we know that this video is how he ended up getting dimed out. So I would assume that the guy that's on that asked him that question to make sure they validate this man's location being in Texas. That's what I would think. Again, nobody, like, you know, I'm going to finish, let it play out. There's like 30 seconds to go, so I can say I showed you the whole video, but this is how he got caught.
صبر انقلاب نکن کسی را بسته ها برادر بانش خواه انتحاری هم میکنی
بله
آفرین حال بشکی زرد در کجا جور میکنی در امریکا خود نیست
آمین در امریکا جور میکنم اینه در لایف میگم خاص در لایف میگم اینه همین جا در پورتوار جور میکنم
آفرین خود در موتر جور میکنی
در موتر نه در خانه جور میکنم کسی هست که مرا بگیره اینه برش میگم
باز انتحار میکنی
در امریکا در لوکیشن برسن میکنم
در دالز هستی در لوکیشن هم
Now, I also want to point out that he asked if there was anybody else that he knows that can help. He said he was going to make it in his car, not inside of his house. That to me says suicide vehicle-borne IED, like a SV bed, right? I think this guy, let's be honest here. If he's asking for help and he's calling this out on the internet, he's probably not the wisest human, which I'm going to get to here in just a second about some people, depending on where they come from in Afghanistan. There's some highly intelligent Afghans, but then there's also people from the countryside that just aren't. And we're going to talk about that in a sec. But this guy asking for help, no, not Port Worth, Fort Worth. That is a bad translation. F-O-R-T, Fort Worth, Texas, not Port Worth, Fort Worth. About an hour, what is it? A couple hours outside of Dallas, hour and a half, 2 hours outside of Dallas. Something I forget. I used to drive it. Maybe it's 3. I don't know. But anyways, man ends up going, no. Man, listen, don't listen to a thing I said about geological location of Fort Worth. This guy, at the end of the day, is out of his dang mind. And clearly he wants to blow up and kill Americans. Like there's no doubt about that. Now, it is possible that this man knows how to build these things because of former association with the Taliban. He might have experience doing this over inside the country, which leads into the question of vetting process. When he's asking for help, it might be because he needs help building the device, which I could kind of see a need for that, right? Or he might need help planning it out, family members, things like that afterwards. Like, who knows? Good question. He might need somebody to go purchase products, things of that. But a lot of Afghans ended up getting settled and scattered all around the country. And Dallas has a decent amount of them. When we're talking about how people can be so ticked off, I don't think this is a fair video to say that it's because of Trump's policy of shutting down the immigration from Afghanistan that caused this. Because he quoted it not just people that are opposing Afghanistan, but the Taliban. The Taliban. So clearly Trump's policy is not for the Taliban, even though we're sending them an ungodly amount of money right now, which needs to stop. And I hope this video kind of owns up to that it needs to stop. But yeah, I don't even know what to say at this point. It needs screened. It needs looked at. It needs screened and it needs looked at. We have CR Yetter came in gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Thank you, sir. Fox McCloud says the fascinating part is that they didn't take no more than 5 years to prove why they don't belong and they're not assimilating. Right. And so now that you've brought that up, I want to bring something else up as well. Fox McCloud says, as usual, another white supremacist. Are you talking about me? Do you think I'm a white supremacist? I don't think I am. But here's the problem. I ended up making a post about this because you guys can hate the Krastantines. I'm not a big fan of them at all, but it's absolutely ridiculous. Rob O'Neill ended up putting something out. He ended up putting this out, and Donald Trump ended up putting it out afterwards. And he said, if you've never been to Afghanistan, you wouldn't understand. If you showed these people an espresso machine and gave them free coffee, they would assume you were a witch and chop your head off. But let's bring him in. He's not wrong. There is places in Afghanistan that if you show them an espresso machine, they're going to assume you're a witch. They will. Rob's not wrong. He's just not. Some of those villages out there are pretty freaking bad. Brian, this knucklehead with almost 1 million followers, says major cities like Kabul, Herat, Mazar-e Sharif, and Kandahar have coffee shops, Wi-Fi, smartphones, cars, modern appliances. Afghanistan has shopping malls with electrical stores, sells appliances, and far more advanced than an espresso machine. Many Afghans use espresso machines, smartphones, and other modern. It sounds like he copied this crap out of ChatGPT. Most people who have lived in Afghanistan, aid workers, journalists, U.S. personnel, describe Afghans as warm, curious, friendly, tech familiar, and not prone to attacking you over a coffee maker. Yeah, well, what he didn't tell you, and I've actually gave my personal testimony to this, and I'll back up Rob O'Neill here, is that there is an area of Afghanistan where they believe that the rise and fall of the sun is because of a dragon that lives in the Hindu Kush, which is a mountain range. It stretches, it's vast, it's huge, but it stretches across Afghanistan, cuts it pretty much in half. They believe that this dragon lives in the mountain range. And every morning it jumps up out of the mountains and spits the fireball into the sky. And at night it swallows it back down in. Many Afghan men don't believe in vaginal intercourse because it's dirty. and they actually prescribed to anal intercourse instead. There was a man that was not, I don't want to say this, a man that was confused why his wife couldn't get pregnant over there. And when finally the medic ended up looking at him and telling him, like, dude, like, this has been like months, like your wife's not getting pregnant. There might be a problem here or something like that. And then he was like, how are you doing this? Like, how are you having sex? Like the guy ended up describing anal sex to the medic. And then he had to explain to him vaginal intercourse and how that works. And you're talking about like full grown adult male. Fox McCloud says, Matt, you are 0.00001 black. Of course, you're not a white supremacist. Thank you. I am Egyptian and from the Levant. I also have ties allegedly ethnically to Ukraine and Russia. Blew my mind when I learned that portion of it out. Polish and American. Those are the vast majority of like where I come. Oh, I can't forget Italian. That's a huge part of it. But the other thing that Brian failed to mention is bacha bazi. Right. This is where the grown Afghan men will take little boy child slaves and use them for sex and use them for doing things around the house. Another example I ended up giving of something, I mean, it's just, they have been selling their young daughters after the U.S. pulled out as young as 6 years old into marriage. They'll take them, dress them up. You've got videos that you, again, go look it up. You've got videos of young girls that are crying and being drug off because they're selling off their, 6-year-old daughters to full grown men, some with a lot less hair and a hell of a lot more gray in their beard and hair than I have. It's disgusting. And so there is that culture that's over there. Not to mention, I specifically remember, and I've talked to you guys about this, like my last trip over there in 2018, when I was leaving theater off of our last op. Or not leaving theater, but leaving off of our last op and driving back in. There's just Taliban flags everywhere. And that was something that, and I'm talking to like out in the remote villages and everything else. And that was something that was like unheard of, 5-6 years prior? Like they were pretty much in hiding, unless they were in a very, very remote location, but they were in like hiding. And then it came out to like a lot of pride and everything went after it. So yeah, the people need properly vetted. They really do. And there is ungodly amounts, and I talked about this yesterday, of people that came here into the United States that didn't have the appropriate paperwork. There was people that were having paperwork forged over in Doha. Mayorkas flat out said during a congressional inquiry on the matter, Secretary Mayorkas underneath Biden, on a congressional inquiry on the matter, Lindsey Graham asked him, he said, can you guarantee that 100% of those people that were screened? And he said, I can't speak on that. And that was after 3 minutes of pushback. So there is no guarantee, none whatsoever, that everybody that got brought into the country is pro-America, is very well vetted, very well documented. As a matter of fact, DHS actually ended up coming out with a statement of their own on the matter. And it's kind of troubling. They said tens of thousands of unvetted Afghan aliens have hurt and terrorized American citizens after the Biden admin flooded into our country with criminals, terrorists, and other threats. Just a few of the criminals who have rewarded American generosity with violence. Jamal Wally, this is the guy that a lot of you guys wanted to bring up that ended up, shooting the cops on a traffic stop back in, April? And then we have, of course, these two gentlemen that I had talked about. This is one guy, but it was him and a minor that had plotted an election day shooting back in November. They got luckily arrested by the FBI, and the list just goes on. All right. Here you go. Mohammed Karwan, an Afghan national who was on the terror watch list, was apprehended by the Border Patrol in 2024, but released into the country by the Biden admin. He was arrested again after being allowed to live in the United States at large for over a year. Freaking nuts. And it goes on. They keep going. I mean, how many more do these guys want me to go over? Like for crying out loud. Barula Nuri was arrested at Fort McCoy in Wisconsin and charged with attempting to engage in a sexual act with a minor, using force, along with 3 other counts of engaging in a sexual act with a minor. We can go on. We can do this all day. This is a serious issue here in the United States of America, and it needs to get taken care of. It needs to get looked at. Nobody that can, and even after interviewing all of the people on the ground, not even the people on the ground will tell you that, yeah, they're all properly vetted. The people initially screening their paperwork didn't even have training on how to do it. They were photocopying it. Afghan buddy of mine was telling me the other day that people were getting paid off like 10 G's to get in. Like there's all sorts of crap that was going on. Department of State officials would go up to the gate guards that were letting people on the base or letting people onto the airfield and tell them, don't worry about paperwork. Okay, worry about paperwork. All sorts of crazy shit. Like just craziness that's taking place. Sky God coming in, gifting out 2020 Speak the Truth memberships. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that. It's odd to me that people actually are fighting back against this as if it's not going to be an issue here in the United States of America. And I think it's all part of a broader issue called a color revolution. And it's something that Russia has been doing for a very long time. And we certainly see signs of it over here in the United States of America. And we certainly saw signs of it with the Biden administration and coming up with the Russian collusion narrative and trying to keep Trump out of office, not to mention all of the foreign funding that's been pouring into our schools from different countries overseas, different indoctrination of our kids and everything else.
My first thing was when I heard about where this guy came from, I was like, oh my God, this isn't a one-off. This isn't a lone wolf. This is an intentional design to start basically an internal physical component of what I call this color revolution. And this is just one among many that I think that we should expect to see. My first thing was when I heard about where this...
And I'm with him. I don't think that gentleman inside of Washington, D.C. acted alone. I think he had handlers. I think people were pushing him. I don't know. I know there's theories about the CIA coming after him and all sorts of other stuff. I think it's a little bit deeper than that. I think the Taliban, ISIS, Al-Qaeda definitely had people that were pushed through those gates to put them in the United States. It was a prime operation for them to be able to do that. Outer Space says, why are we letting all the PWACs in? For those of you guys that don't know what PWACs are, they're peasants with AKs. I have no idea why we're letting all the PWACs in. It's freaking like, they were supposed to be vetted. All right. So the SIV program, the Special Immigrant Visa Program, is for people specifically, all right, that have been working side by side with U.S. forces for years that were in danger. So picture needing refugee status, but because they worked with the United States government over there. And we tried to learn our lesson from Vietnam because we had, what was the name of that group over inside Vietnam that the U.S. Special Forces was working with? I'm brain farting it right now. Anyways, like we ended up abandoning a lot of those people. And then the guys ended up getting themselves together and bringing them over there. That's why when you're outside of like military bases and all of that stuff, and it's not to be racist, but you have Asian sew shops. Right. If you've ever been in the military, if there's Asian sew shops, right? If you're down inside Texas or the South, over in Texas, and you have the donut kolache shops and things like that, when people were moved back to the United States, they were given skills, right, from those countries. And those skills were like sewing. They were freaking like sewing they knew how to do from over there, but also making donuts and all that crap. That's why you have Asian donut shops down in Texas and Oklahoma and places like that. The thing is we didn't give these Afghans anything when they ended up getting back. There is a gentleman that I actually ended up posting about on my Instagram like 2 years ago. He was stood up the Afghan commando course over inside of Afghanistan. And he was like commander for a very long time. And he obviously ended up making it back inside of the United States of America. And I took him out hunting and shooting. And I was shocked to learn that he is in the business of making sandwiches now for somebody. Like he got a job making sandwiches. That's what he's qualified to do right now. Like U.S. government really didn't give him crap, didn't set them up, like any of that stuff. At least we did that for, all of the Asian folks that ended up coming over here. But the Afghans, we certainly didn't do it. And likely because of the way the administration ended up doing it. Tom Bone says, oh yeah, the mountain yards. Thank you. The mountain yards. Is there any way out of this mess, or is it too late? And now intelligence will need to be working overtime to preemptively stop domestic attacks. Good question. Is there any way out of it? The other piece of evidence that I would point to that the United States knew that this was going to be coming down the pipe is because it was last week, not this week, last week. It was like last Friday. It was on Friday. Donald Trump signed the memo or whatever to start going through the Afghan visas with a fine tooth comb and start cutting them off. And then after the attack, it was like formally announced, like an actual big announcement. So it could be that that's what prompted everything. But I have a feeling that the United States government knew that these were about to take place, knew that we had these radical attacks that were about to take place, And that is when Donald Trump said, no, we need to review all of these people. That's what makes proper sense to me. Triggerman says, deport Ilhan Omar. You know what? We will. We'll talk about Ilhan Omar right after this. This is a video. Color Revolution. He didn't, do a very good job of explaining it. But this video, in my opinion, I ended up finding this lady today over on X, Defender of the Republic. You guys should probably go give her a follow. She's got almost 200,000 subs or 200,000 followers over there. But I want you guys to listen because she does a very good breakdown of the history of color revolution and how all of this crap ties together.
You've now probably heard political experts over and over refer to the fact that what we're witnessing is a color revolution. And they're right. And let me explain why. A color revolution is a communist globalist playbook to take over a country without tanks actually rolling down Main Street. It's how they flipped places like Serbia, Georgia, Ukraine, and they tried to flip a dozen others. The same exact playbook every single time. This is how they do it. 1, they demonize the leader of the people who they actually voted for. 2, they flood the country with chaos like riots, open borders, economic pain. 3, they weaponize the courts, the media, and big tech to finish him off. And 4, they install a puppet who sells the country out to China and the UN. And that's not theory, that's the manual. They opened it on us in the United States the day Donald Trump won in 2016. And here's how they ran it on us step by step. From 2016 to 2020, they gave us the Russia collusion.
So does that make sense to you guys? Do those steps sound familiar? I think she does a pretty good job laying that out for you guys to be able to hear. And when they talk about a puppet, I want you to think about the amount of auto pen signatures that ended up going through. I want you to think about how just spaced out and crapped out he was. I want you to think about the whole Russia collusion scandal that ended up taking place here in the United States. I mean, it's a problem. Right. And we have this stuff that's going on right now and it's been injected into our universities. Our youth have been indoctrinated. It's freaking nuts. I don't think anybody can sit back and go, yeah, there's no way that this is like taking place. Somebody brought up Ilhan Omar. You want to talk about Ilhan Omar for a hot sec? Well, no, I'll tell you what, I'll close up on all the evidence against Ilhan Omar and why she needs booted out of the country. But there's more of it. All right. I can't remember this gentleman's name, Lieutenant Colonel Lumiere from the Air Force. He was actually kicked out for bringing this crap up back in the day, and ended up having his career ruined because he brought up all of the woke crap being pushed inside of our military. Being spot. He was letting everybody know about all the woke crap over inside of our military. We also had like the Marine Corps, and we had people from the Army. We had all sorts of people, and they were just getting smashed. Why? Because if you want to have a successful overthrow of a government, and none of it ever happens without the backing of the military. None of it. And they started pushing woke ideological agenda into our military back when Obama was president in 2009. He started slowly working that crap in there. And we started seeing big changes that were coming across right in the middle of the global war on terror. So yeah, it's a problem. And it's not just in our federal government. I want to talk to you guys about New York for a second. Here's our scenes from New York. Told you guys that they ended up protesting, rioting over there, going after ICE agents and all that other crap, blocking off the freaking parking garages. They were also reportedly taking dump trucks full of trash and just blocking them off. Now, New York is built kind of different, right? Like where this place is at. It's not technically a Sally port, but it's like their parking garage to leave the facility dumps right onto the street. And so you had a huge wall of protesters that were blocking all of the DHS, vehicles and stuff, the federal vehicles that wanted to go leave the garage today. And with that being said, after those people got smashed, which I'm going to show you that in a little bit, they started dumping trash all over see that, right? Not mailboxes, trash, reportedly trash was being thrown out of different buildings, but people are just stacking up trash and stuff, trying to get them to keep from going out. And this to me is part of that, color revolution crap that we're talking about. You cause this chaos, you cause all of this crap over inside of the country. You have idiots like Krassenstein coming out, spreading, I don't want to say misinformation possibly, but just doesn't literally know what he's talking about. you know, when it goes down to that stuff. We have our politicians coming out talking about illegal strikes on the Venezuelans. We've got politicians coming out, the Seditious Six, with their video. You know, all of this crap is going on at these peak moments. Meanwhile, Russia's getting their spy boats blown up over off the coast of Turkey, and the U.S. is about to go into Venezuela. And we know we have lots of Chinese that are pouring in the United States from there. We know Russia has huge influence from there. Is there oil down there? Yeah, a lot. Is that, I think, the primary motivation behind the United States? No. Trump was talking back in 2019 that he hates Maduro, but that doesn't stop any of these people from losing their crap on DHS here at home. So right there, you can see the entrance/exit to the garage. All right. And you had hundreds of people crammed over there, and they weren't able to get through. And so NYPD ends up showing up. You're looking at NYPD officers, not federal agents, NYPD officers that were called in to take care of this. I'd be very curious to see once Madami gets into office, whether or not that's going to happen again. Kevin says, sent you the story of the year to your Anger Tab X account. All right, Kevin, I will go take a look at it after this. There's only so much of that crap I can take, ladies and gentlemen. I know some of you guys like watching it. It just annoys the freaking crap out of me. Anyways, NYPD eventually got sick of the crap. As you can see right here in the opening of this video, and you're about to see everybody just running around and just chaos. Just freaking chaos. I'm Not Blind 84 came in gifting out a Speak the Truth membership. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, and why are they getting away with it? Just like you guys saw right there. That guy literally ran over in front trying to chuck that freaking trash can in front. And then NYPD officer just takes the can and pushes it to the side. Like, grab that pile of garbage, slam him on the ground, and put cuffs on him. Stop taking this crap from these protesters. It needs to stop. Excuse me, rioters. Protesters, rioters. So yeah, you guys go ahead and tell me and every other American on the planet that think that what is taking place here is okay, that for some reason we don't have an insurrection taking place in the United States of America, because we absolutely do. We absolutely have an insurrection taking place here. We do, period. We have corruption going on at our state and local levels, and we also have it all the way up at the top of the federal government, right? You have all of these civilians that are absolutely trying to impede federal operations. Donald Trump presently is authorized 100% to send the National Guard into California to take care of this crap if the cops don't start doing their damn job. And I did see one cop push somebody down. People are getting pepper sprayed. Great. But the fact is that none of these city officials, leaders, anybody like that is actually like coming out. Like, they'll go out if something happens, and they'll stand on the street and they'll pretend like they're with the people, and they'll be like, we're going to look into this. We're really upset with federal agents being here. We're, all this other crap. But you don't ever hear him coming out going, we're going to look into every single one of you bastards that went and threw all of this crap and impeded these operations for freaking hours. That did that, ended up blocking traffic. People got to get to the freaking hospitals. They got to get to work. They got to get to home. They got to get to school. They have lives. Andreas says he's so glad he switched from NYPD. Yeah, that's right. If I remember right, Andreas, you ended up running down to Florida, right? Like, good call, man. Absolutely good call. I don't blame you for doing that either. This needs to happen. Like, we need to actually have people that are going to stand up and come out against them and actually correct this situation, because it's quite literally out of control. Now, they did eventually get the situation under control, if we're going to be fair. Okay. They did get the situation under control. This is obviously a different door, but you can still see the NYPD officers standing over there outside of it, keeping people back. But yeah, just take a look. I mean, what the hell? I don't even know how to say this. Why are they not in cuffs? At that point right there, why are we just pushing people aside? Why are they not in handcuffs? Why? Because they're just going to continue to cause problems later on down the road. And so, yeah, I would take this and I would go ahead and call these things insurrections, because our law enforcement officers are not doing their damn job. They're not. They're just literally not. They're doing good enough to allow the vehicles to flow out, but then the vehicles end up flowing out and getting down the road. You have to also understand, part of enforcing the law is to act as a deterrent. It is also a deterrent. And when you're not enforcing the law, people aren't being deterred. By simply locking arms like you're a bunch of hippies on a protest and moving the frickin' rioters back, you're not solving anything. You're not convincing anybody not to do what they're doing. And if anything, you're empowering them more, because you look weak. You look absolutely weak. No, that guy got a light shove. Thank God. One guy gets a light shove. Our freaking government's out of control, man. I really think it's a freaking problem. What are they all pissed off about? Because Trump enforcing the law. And anybody that's upset about the Afghans, I want you to look at this quote that he has right here. Immigration and National Security Act, Section 212F. Whenever the president finds that the entry of any aliens or of any class of aliens into the United States would be detrimental to the interest of the United States, he may, by proclamation and for such period as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of aliens any restrictions he may deem to be appropriate. It's quite literally his authority to do so. That includes Afghans, that includes Cuba, that includes Venezuela, that includes Mother Russia. Dude, if he wanted to say it for Ukraine for whatever reason. And the funny thing is it's not really defined, what needs to lead to his determination. It's just literally, if he finds it would be detrimental to the interest of the U.S., he can just shut it off. And so people are arguing, they're complaining about things that are well within his authority. Fox McCloud says, the thing that really concerns me is that we are being impeded by least energetic and most half-butt people among us. That's correct. We are. We are. And what's worse, in my opinion, is they're being fueled by a lot of this crap. You know what's directly across the street from the ICE facility over inside of Portland? Do you know what's directly across the street? That apartment complex right there, from what I was told, you have government-assisted housing in there. And people, some of the Antifa, self-described, I'm not putting that label on them, self-described, live in that building. Subsidized via the government. And so that is why those people are able to get out there. And that's something that we need to look at. I'm surprised the federal government hasn't looked at any of those people that are riding outside of that facility and going, who's actually getting assistance for this crap, and cut them off. Like, it's absurd. We are allowing this crap to take place here in the United States of America, and it needs to go. It really needs to stop. I am so sick of all these dang people coming over here and doing all this stuff. You want to take a look at Somalis over in the United States? I mean, they need to go as well. CBP chief, Greg Bavino ended up having a statement about them increasing operations.
True. Any illegal alien has broken the law, but let's take a look at those criminal records that those individuals were talking about, as you say, in that nice, comfortable studio. Those criminal records also include immigration violations as well. Reentry after deportation is a felony. Oftentimes, it doesn't seem that they want to talk about the reentry after deportation. That's definitely a felony. That's something I count and should be counted as a criminal record. So we go after some very bad people and bad things. And oftentimes, Kylie, what we're finding is when we apprehend other people in conjunction with that targeted enforcement, many of those individuals have significant immigration and or criminal histories. Sometimes between 60 and 70% of those general immigration sweeps will see illegal aliens with significant immigration and or criminal histories. It's quite amazing. True.
They are going to be increasing operations against these people. They're going to be going after them, and it's going to hit very, very hard and very, very fast. I also hear that Ilhan Omar is probably on the chopping block. Kirby Campbell came in becoming a true supporter. Good to have you on board, friend. Silent Spring says, I watched an NYPD officer stand in the middle of a highway and pull a taser on motorcycle lanes splitting. But these dirtbags get a light shove. How far they have been reined in. It's sad. I agree. It's freaking sad. And it's not the only place, man. Like, I'm telling you, it's not just in New York. All sorts of freaking liberal states are doing that. ST_RC says, Matt, might you be so kind to remind people of what a Green Beret is? Thank you for your hard work in exposing all of this. Expelling or exposing all this? I'm not sure which one. But yeah. So Green Berets, you do end up receiving, well, one, there's lots of different areas that you end up being able to specialize in, right? Like special reconnaissance, counterproliferation, counterterrorism operations, but also guerrilla warfare. Like the U.S. Army Green Berets are like the guerrilla warfare experts and are primarily designed to be able to go infill into a country and be able to essentially overthrow an insurgency or a government, if we want to be frank about it, and doing that using and working through partner forces. So you do get extensive training on that. And I really don't know how much more in depth to go into that. I would have to go over and conduct a Google search about what's openly available material before I can say, yes, I received X training, right? But I mean, some of that stuff also includes like that video that ended up showing up in the front, which is psychological operations. And that is kind of what we're seeing. And so you're looking for signs of all that stuff. And what we're seeing here in the United States is signs of that. It's not just me, myself and several other Green Berets have actually spoken out about this, and it's a problem. And so it needs to be solved. It needs to be taken care of. I'm not active duty anymore. I'm medically retired. But there's a lot of guys that have came out and actually spoken about this, and you can go find their own, statements. I'm not going to put words in anybody else's mouth, but yes, I am personally, I am worried about it, and I can see it happening. And all of the talking points that they're pushing over here, like I said, you go to a pro-Palestinian rally and you are going to see socialist movements and communist movements that show up there trying to recruit people. And it's that way for a reason. We see funding being poured into this country from foreign nations, right? Qatar, for example, inside of our colleges. It's appalling to me that nobody can actually take part and like figure this stuff out. You start replacing political leaders down inside Texas. Everybody was concerned with what the heck was the name of that site outside of Dallas, up in Plano. I forget it, but the huge Muslim area where they were going to build the neighborhood and all of that. You can look, and I'm not saying that any of these people are or aren't involved in it. Right? I'm just saying that putting these people in the government, like Ilhan Omar, is a way to start doing that. You start infiltrating the education system, you start infiltrating into the school system, you start infiltrating into the government, you start infiltrating the news and media, and you start pushing those different narratives. But even more so, something I talked about the other day is the mass amount of mis and disinformation that has been pushed out over social media platforms. I showed that guy talking on X earlier, talking about having, building an ID, and he's going to kill Americans for the people that oppose the Taliban and that oppose Afghans. Okay. Well, we discovered on X the amount of foreign accounts that existed that pretended like they were Americans, and we know for a fact that they weren't. We know that they came from overseas, and some of them were Eastern European accounts that were non-EU. Throwing that out there. Turkey, Syria, right? All pretending to be Americans. And some of them have very large accounts. Some of them are pretending to be MAGA. That's obnoxious. I want to say that one account, MAGA Nation, with almost like 500,000, was coming out of Turkey, right? So these are the types of things. So you flood everybody, you indoctrinate them with misinformation. And that was just over on X. We haven't even dove into TikTok yet. I think it should be required that comes out. It should be absolutely required that the account, country, origin on every social media platform, just because of no BS, national security sakes. So people know that they are not Americans that are pretending to be Americans, that are pretending to be pro-America or America first or anything like that are pushing these racial divides and racial differences. It's disgusting. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, but in my opinion, we do have signs of all of that crap taking place here in this country. I've got a good video lined up for you guys to close this out with. It's about Ilhan Omar. I didn't make the video, but it's information on Ilhan Omar and how she became a U.S. citizen, allegedly. All I'm doing is providing you the information to make up your own mind. I'm going to see you guys Monday morning, unless some wild stuff ends up going down tomorrow. It's Sunday, so I'm not trying to work on a Sunday, but other than that, I'll see you guys first thing, bright and early Monday morning. If you guys are brand new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you guys like, share the video, do all of those different things. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to appreciate everybody who ended up donating, even the guy at the very last minute, STRC, gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships at the very end. Ladies and gentlemen, peace, love, happiness, and God bless. Have a wonderful weekend, and check this out.
Minnesota Democrats, media, and the Department of Justice have continually ignored strong evidence supporting the fact that Ilhan Omar may be directly involved in tax, marriage, and immigration fraud.
In 2002, Omar married Ahmed Hirsi in a religious ceremony. Hirsi is the father of Omar's 3 children and is pictured often with Omar and their children on their campaign website.
In 2016, Minnesota journalist Scott Johnson received a tip about a post from a Somali community website containing marriage certificates alleging Omar married her brother, Elmi, in February 2009 in order for him to immigrate to the U.S. legally, despite the facts she'd been married to the father of her children, Hirsi, over a decade.
This clearly proved that any such second marriage might be bigamous under Minnesota law, as well as fraudulent.
Later in August 2016, further investigations into legal documents and filings in Minnesota by journalist Priya Samsundar uncovered evidence supporting the allegation that Ilhan Omar married her brother, Ahmed Nursed Elmi, in 2009.
The 2009 marriage license to Elmi lists the same address as one filed for a Minnesota business 3 months later in May 2009 for a one-to-one cafe by Hirsi, the father of Omar's 3 children.
That means Ilhan Omar was living with both her real husband Hirsi while still married to her brother Elmi.
Omar has continued to deny the allegations, dismissing them as baseless rumors and fake journalists on bigot blogs despite mounting evidence.